Internal Revenue Service IRS Tax News. Answers to tax questions are available anytime on IRS.gov, IRS.gov, the IRS website. COVID Tax Tip 2021-36, March 24th, 2021. IRS.gov is always available and has tools to help people file and pay taxes, find information about their account, and get answers to tax questions. Here are a few things that people can do with a visit to IRS.gov, IRS.gov, the IRS website. File a tax return. Taxpayers who earned $72,000 or less in 2020 can file free using brand name software, tax software, with IRS Free File. There's a link to IRS Free File here. Basically, what happens is you got the brand name software, things like TurboTax and others that have a free offer for people that meet certain conditions, including having a income less than $72,000. Not all the offers will have incomes less than $72,000 for free, but some will. That's kind of like the upper threshold for most people. And you can kind of sort through where those free offers would be from the third-party software on the IRS website, and then it'll take you to the tax software once you have decided so that you could file your tax return. This is a great tool for people that want to file electronically and want to use tax software in order to help them to file electronically. And you can also do the direct deposit information. I think that's why the IRS, of course, likes it, because they want people to be able to file the tax return electronically and pay or receive the tax due or the tax refunded electronically as well. If you do use the software, just note that you want to make sure that you're picking up the state requirements that you might have as well, so that you can pick those up with the software that you decide on. And also, if you're subject to refundable credits like an earned income tax credit, make sure that the software that you are picking up will take that into account as well. So people who earned more and want to do their own taxes can use free File Fillable Forms. So that's another free option that's kind of more similar to doing the taxes by hand, which is much more difficult. I don't recommend really doing that unless you are comfortable doing that. I do think it's useful to do the tax returns in essence by hand as a double check if you wanted to, for the tax returns that are being used with the tax software or by a tax provider to help you fill out the tax return, because that can help you to better understand it. But using the software really helps to limit the amount of errors you might have with mathematical errors, and it'll also help you to basically compare and contrast or give you suggestions about other types of things, given it will typically have an interview type of process. Also, if your income's getting over the $72,000 or well over the $72,000, your tax return is going to be more complex. If your tax return is more complex, once again, I would recommend at least using some software, because it's kind of a double check. It's kind of like an internal control to make sure that your taxes are done properly, and or once your income gets to a certain threshold, you might want to be looking for a tax provider, someone to help you with your tax returns, a tax preparer, I should say. Because that will help you with one, preparing the taxes, and two, possible planning for tax situations in the future as your tax situation becomes more complex. So these are the electronic versions of IRS paper forms. Either way, everyone has a free electronic filing option. The IRS has extended the federal income tax filing due date for individuals for 2020 tax year from April 15, 2020 to May 17, 2021. One more time on that. The IRS has extended the federal income tax filing due date for individuals for 2020 tax year from April 15, 2021 to May 17, 2021. Individual taxpayers have until May 17th to file and pay 2020 federal income taxes. So once again, individual taxpayers have until May 17th to file and pay 2020 federal income taxes. If individual taxpayers need more time to file, they can use the IRS Free File through May 17th to electronically request an extension to file until October 15th. So you have the extension of the normal deadline, and then you have the, you have the extension of the IRS automatically extending to May 17th, and then you can still file for an extension, formally file for an extension. That deadline has not been pushed out as of yet. That deadline would still be the October 15th. Remember that if you file for an extension, then there's two things you want to be thinking about. One, any kind of requirements with regard to filing to avoid penalties and interest, and then 2, any requirements with regards to payment. Those are 2 separate things. Even though you have an extension to file, if you owe taxes, the IRS still wants their taxes paid, even if you're on extension, and they'll still charge possibly penalties and interest if not paid at that point. Keep those 2 things separate in your mind so that you can avoid penalties and interest. So taxpayers should remember that an extension of time to file is not an extension of time to pay. Penalties and interest may apply to taxes not paid by May 17th. Individual taxpayers can get an extension of paying all or part of their estimated income tax due using direct pay, the electronic federal tax payment system, or a credit or debit card. There's links to those payment options here, and indicating that the payment is for an extension. When you do make the payment, no matter what type of format you make the payment with, you must indicate or make sure that you indicate what the payment is for. Otherwise, if the IRS applies the payment to the wrong place, then it's possible they could do anything with it, right? They can keep it. They might send you a refund and then still tell you that you owe taxes even though you paid it because it got applied to the wrong area. So as you're thinking about these items, clearly we're thinking possibly 2020 tax payments, and now it's 2021, for example. If you miscategorized it, they might apply the payment to 2021 and still say that you owe money, for example, for 2020. Which you may be able to remedy that by contacting the IRS and saying, hey, look, I paid you and I want you to apply that to the proper place and so on. But avoid that problem by making sure that when you make the payment, you apply it to the proper place. So this way, they won't have to file a separate extension form and will receive a confirmation number for their records. Pay taxes online. Individual taxpayers can file now and schedule their federal tax payments through the May 17th due date. They can pay online, by phone, or with their mobile device and the IRS.gov app. So you can pay with your phone. That's neat. All right, electronic payment options, there's a link to that here, are the optimal way to make a tax payment to support social distancing and speed the processing of payments. So obviously the IRS is trying everything they can to have people file the tax returns electronically and pay and receive payments and receipts electronically. Now, on the receipt side of things, they're going to be quite effective with that, I would think, because people want their money sooner and they're trying to get the money. On the payment side of things, they might have a little bit more difficulty because people probably are not as concerned with the fact that the check in the mail delays the deposit on the IRS side of things, as long as when you send the check in the mail, you're avoiding or getting not having penalties and interest because you sent the check on time. So if that, in that case, when you owe the IRS money, in other words, you may not have as much urgency to do the electronic payment because you may not care so much if the payment gets processed really quickly, as long as you're avoiding penalties and interest. However, it's still useful, it's still kind of nice to use the electronic payment, even though they'll take your money sooner than if you send them a check, because then, you can kind of double check that the check has cleared and that they have received it, and that, if it does get lost in the mail, then obviously they might charge you penalties and interest and whatnot. So it's kind of nice to get the confirmation that they got it in that situation as well, even if you owe them money. So this includes IRS direct pay, electronic funds, withdrawal, and payment by debit or credit card. I think it's funny that they're also trying to incentivize you to pay them with the electronic option in order to support the social distancing. That's their argument for. Obviously, the main thing they want is their money faster, I would think. But in any case, it still could be good to do the electronic processing, in my mind, mainly so you can just double check that it has cleared and just have peace of mind that it has cleared faster. So view federal tax information online. Taxpayers can visit IRS.gov to securely access information. There's a link to that here about their federal taxes. They can access their tax records, review their payment history, and view tax return information for the current year's tax return and originally filed. Get answers to tax questions. Taxpayers can find reliable answers to their tax questions using the interactive tax assistant. There's a link to that here. This tool asks a series of questions and provides immediate answers on a variety of tax topics. Learn more about the recovery rebate credit and the third round of economic impact payment. there is a special section. So, special section has a link to that here of IRS.gov, where taxpayers can find information about their latest economic impact payment and claiming the 2020 recovery rebate credit. So remember to keep distinct all these payments that are going out here. There's 3 of them now of these economic impact payments: EIP 1, EIP 2, EIP 3, as they're being called at this point. EIP 1, EIP 2 basically are being tied to the 2020 tax return. And if there was any problems with EIP 1 or EIP 2, then the remedy for those problems would be to file the tax return for 2020 and claim the recovery rebate credit. The EIP 1, EIP 2 basically being prepayments of the recovery rebate credit on the tax return on 2020. So again, if you got something less than what you think you should have got, then the remedy would be file the tax return, pick up the recovery rebate credit for the difference. The EIP 3, third round out, then is the new one that went out. And so that one's going to be based on 2020 filings or 2019 filings, but it should basically be automatic at this point in time. You shouldn't have to do anything. Those should be going out. And if there's any problems with those items, then they're going to give hopefully further guidance on what we do with problems with those items. One thing that you might do, of course, is file the 2020 tax return, which could remedy some problems. For example, if your income was higher in 2019 than 2020, and there was a phase out of the amount of recovery rebate credits you got, and then your income went way down in 2020 because many people's did, then if you file 2020 tax return, they may automatically note that based on the 2020 information, you should have got the recovery more of the EIP 3, Economic Impact Payment 3, and they may remedy that situation. But as any kind of bumps in the road come up, we should get more information about what to do about those bumps in the road. At this point in time, they're sending out EIP 3.